I remember when I started this personal development journey, this self-help journey, spiritual journey, whatever you want to call it, back in 2016. I was just like everybody else. I used to go and listen to all the freaking grind gurus and hustle whores, right? And read all of that stuff. And from that, I'm glad I did, because from that I got to see who what I wanted to be and who I wanted to emulate, and who I admired the work that they were doing, and what worked for me and what didn't, and what fit for me and what didn't. And you could say I constantly use the term "eat the fruit, spit out the seeds" in my coaching and in conversations, because what I don't want someone to do is just to do everything that I say and think I've got all the answers, that I have everything on lockdown and I just have all the solutions for everybody and just follow my advice and everything will get better. That's just not the case. There are 8.3 billion people on the planet, and there's nothing that works for everybody that's 100% tried, true, tested. It's because we're all designed differently and different things work for different people. So it's just a point. Eat the fruit, spit out the seeds. But one of the things that I remember hearing constantly from the grind gurus and hustle whores, and I mean constantly, is the term "fuck your feelings." Now, I don't buy that. And maybe back then I tried to buy that, but just ignoring my emotions, ignoring feelings, ignoring what was happening in my mind and body. That's what got me to the brink of freaking killing myself to begin with, is trying not to feel, trying not to be human, trying not to try to ignore what was happening in my mind and my body, and trying to not feel what I was feeling. And that's what brought me to the brink of destruction and everything: 300 pounds, suicidal, drinking, toxic levels, in an abusive marriage and abusive parenting and an abusive household. And just, I lost my job and lost my career and all of it. And finances started to drain because I didn't have any active income. I didn't have any passive income at the time. But anyway, the point being is there was nothing good that came from me trying to ignore my emotions and me trying to ignore my feelings. Now, I don't want to go all the way to the other side and say always like life is just about what you feel and it matters and it's important. I don't believe that either, but I believe there is some benefit to getting in touch, getting a deeper understanding of the emotions in our bodies, the feelings that we're feeling, and what they're ultimately trying to teach us. And that's the point. This isn't about honoring your feelings and emotions and just living as if they're true. Absolutely not. When you hear somebody say, "You hurt my feelings," well, that's because they're trying not to take responsibility for their emotions and their feelings, and that's not part of this either. It's not my job to manage anybody's emotions in their body, and it's not anybody else's job on the planet to manage anyone else's emotions. We're all playing the game of life, and we're all getting cut by life from day to day. And we all get to learn from what these emotions and what these feelings and what's happening in our mind and body are telling us, because there's a story that needs to be decoded. Now, I was on a coaching call with someone in my mastermind, and I think I told this story on the podcast, on a podcast episode before, but I was on a coaching call. It was one of the most powerful kind of moments that I had. And she was talking about the emotions in her body and what she was feeling. And she was feeling low self-worth, low self-esteem, right? No value. Like she wasn't significant in the world. And she was really sharing all these things. And as this isn't the first time she shared all these with me. And I told her, I said, "Listen, I just need you to sit there quiet and just listen for a little bit." And I said, your defense mechanism whenever you're feeling uncomfortable is just to smile and to pretend that you're okay. I said, I don't even want you to do that. Don't defend, don't protect. Just every time I'm going to repeat this thing 10 times. And every time I repeat it, I want you to understand it at a different level. And I simply said, those feelings and emotions that you have in your body, low self-worth, low self-esteem, insignificance, inadequacy, not good enough, you have no value in the world, that you're worthless, that you're useless, all those emotions that you have in your body, they are real. The emotions are real. What you're feeling is real. They're there. They're inside of your body. Do we agree that those emotions are there? They're inside of your body. Do we agree? And she shook her head, yes. And I said, but they're lying to you. I said, but they're real. All those emotions that are in your body, so low self-worth, low self-esteem, inadequacy, insignificance, like you're just taking up space in the world. All those emotions are in your body and they're real. Don't ignore them. Don't pretend they're not there, that they're not there. Don't try to stuff them. They are real. You're really feeling them, but they're lying to you. And I repeated this a bunch of times until she really started to sink in. And the point being is there is a belief built into your nervous system, and that belief triggers emotion. But that belief is a lie. The beliefs buried in our nervous system, 99.9% of the time, are limiting, are lies. And especially when they're bringing up lower level emotions like fear, anxiety, self-worth issues, just grief, all of these things, they're all lies. Doesn't mean that the emotions and the feelings aren't real. They are real. You are really feeling them in real time. But there's a belief and a story underneath of them that are lying to you. And it's really important that we get to the bottom of that belief and that story so that we could start to shift that story and rearrange that story and build a healthier belief, a more empowering belief, so that our nervous system, we can live from that. Because your nervous system has one job and one job only, and that's to keep you alive. It tries to keep you alive by keeping you in familiar circumstances. And it tries to keep you in familiar circumstances because it's proven to be able to keep you alive with whatever it is, because you're alive right now and you're breathing. So in your mind or in your nervous system, if you feel low self-worth, low self-esteem, low significance or insignificance, inadequacy, if you're unloved, unlovable, if you're feeling all these things, your nervous system literally wants to try to keep you there because it knows how to operate there and it knows how to keep you alive there. Because your nervous system doesn't care about anything else, your wealth, success, happiness, nothing. It cares about nothing else except keeping you alive. And right now, however you're built, whatever you have, whatever you possess, whatever your quality of life, whatever your circumstances, it's trying to actively keep you there because you are alive and it is keeping you alive there. In its mind's eye, in your nervous system, it is successful no matter how wealthy, successful, or happy you are. I hope this makes sense. Now, I'm going to tell you 3 stories. And these are real life scenarios in my life that are true. And it's another example of how what I was feeling and the emotions I felt in that moment were lying to me. But the feelings and the emotions were real. I don't want to, this is why fuck your feelings doesn't matter. It's important that we understand a story and a belief underneath so we can actually like repair that belief and repair that story, start to replace the story. But the emotion's real, but the story is not. All right. When I started this coaching business, Inner Wealth Global, back in 2017 is when I really started building. The concept was built in 2016, but 2017 is really when I started getting traction. But I had to learn sales. I had to completely learn how to sell. I had never sold anything for myself ever in the history of my life. All right. And that was 43, 44 years up to that point. I was an operations manager. I was a plant manager. I was an operations guy. I was a manufacturing guy. I knew how to build stuff and how to make stuff and how to run a team and how to lead a team, but I had never sold anything for myself on my behalf. And I had to learn sales. And one of the things that I always felt from the very beginning is, people typically don't like pushy sales guys. I think we can agree on that. And when we don't know how to be direct and honest and bold and just literally stand up for ourselves, we're afraid of pushy sales guys because we don't know how to fully say yes and fully commit and fully surrender to yes. Now, if you are able to completely fully submit and commit to your yes and be bold, no, the answer is no. If you know how to stand up for yourself, then we probably don't care about pushy sales guys. But if you have any element of people pleasing in you, then you're going to be scared of pushy sales guys. And I was scared to death of pushy sales guys because I had a lot of people pleaser in me. That's why I love the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, because it helps you break the people pleasing in you. But anyway, I had to learn sales. I got to learn sales. And one of the things that you have to do as a salesperson is actually offer your product. And when you're in sales training or when you're learning sales, they always say the magic is in the follow-up. But you know what? It always felt pushy to me. And it always felt aggressive to me. And it always felt, and I'm emphasizing the word felt because there was a lie, it always felt abusive to me. It always felt selfish. It felt like I was being a burden, being a pest when I would follow up constantly. Or when someone would say, yeah, right now is not a good time, or blah, blah, blah. And that even a hint of a no would make me completely eject from that pattern and not re-engage with that prospect, with that person. And that is not a mark of a great salesperson. Now, just a couple months ago, here's the difference between me in 2017 and me just a month or two ago, where I have a workshop coming up on August 28th, 29th, just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, in my current hometown of St. Charles, Missouri. And it's titled Built to Give, Rebuilt to Receive. And it's all about how learning to be on the receiving end of life and allow goodness to come into your life. It's going to be a powerful, powerful workshop. And there's one guy who he dabbled with working with me about 6 months ago, maybe 6-8 months ago. And at that point, it was about the investment, and it was about his ability to invest in himself at the level, because he wanted to do one-on-one coaching with me. And what I wanted to do was just get started in some way. So I offered him into my mastermind. He said, I'm really not a group person. And I thought, okay, I honored that. I did honor that no at the time. But when I launched this workshop is exactly the solution that he needs, that he's looking for. It's like he's probably the key client type, the key prospect for this workshop, right? So I messaged him and said, hey man, I know, we jammed a while ago. I just launched this workshop, and yeah, I know you said you didn't really want group stuff, but I think this is perfect for you. And I said, I'll drop the link. I'd love to have you there. And he responded, thanks. I'm just not right now, just not interested in group stuff. Now, what happened was, over the next, let's say 4 weeks, I offered that workshop. I kept coming back to him. Hey, I'm not going to stop until you tell me to fuck off. I'm not going to stop, because this workshop will help you. And it's a way for us to get started. It's a low investment, and it's a great way to get started. We could spend some time together and start to make some change in your life. And 3 more times he told me no. And then finally I said, all right, look, I am not going to stop. I'm telling you, I'm not going to stop. I've got to keep offering, because this is the solution that you need. This will help you, and it'll help accelerate your growth. I said, so I'm going to offer again. And I offered again. And his response, about a minute later, I actually saw a registration come through to my workshop. And I looked, and it was him. And he literally, the response that he had for me was, thank you for not giving up on me. Dramatic pause. His response was, thank you for not giving up on me. What my feelings said, what my emotions said, what the belief that's inside of my nervous system is that being a pushy salesman is slimy and greedy and selfish, and you're just being a burden, and you're just being an ass, and whatever. All these stories that we're going through, that, the way I was built back in 2017, all these stories and all these beliefs were all bullshit. The emotions and the feelings of being pushy and all of that, and being slimy and greedy or whatever, selfish, and just being a pushy sales guy. All those stories were lies. The emotions were real at one point, but the stories underneath are all lies. And it was all validated by one response: thank you for not giving up on me. I had another client. uh, I launched a workshop, and this is years and years ago when I wasn't as, I'm talking about, this is probably 2018 maybe, and a long time ago, and right at the kind of like at the leading edge. And I launched a workshop, and it fell flat on its face. There was only one person that enrolled, and it was actually somebody that Angie knew, my wife Angie knew from a networking event. And as we got closer to the workshop, and it was obvious that nobody else was going to register for the workshop, I told Angie, I said, look, cancel the workshop. Let's just get her over to the house. I'll spend a couple hours with her. I'll be more impactful in a couple hours, direct one-on-one, than in a workshop setting. And it was true. She came over. We spent a couple hours. She cried. She laughed. We blew through some limitations. She became aware of some things that was going on in her life, and the ways which she was sabotaging her success. And it really did change the way she showed up, and it changed the way she, perceived herself and perceived life. And it was really impactful couple hours. And at the end of a couple hours, when, she had enough. I mean, she literally had enough. Her energy, I could see her energy was drained. At the end, hey, gave her a hug, told her thank you for coming over to the house. She walked away, and she went about her business. And I was on a coaching call with my then coach, and she said, Mike, there's somebody right now in the world that wants more of you. And the only reason that they're not getting more of you is because you haven't offered. Who is it? And her name, her face popped right into my head. It was immediate. And I got off the phone with my then coach, and I called her and said, hey, we had a couple good hours together, didn't we? And she said, yes, it was impactful. It was awesome. It was a game changer. And I said, listen, I never offered more help. And she literally started crying in that moment. And when I said, I'd love to offer you an invitation to work with me at a deeper level, she said, thank you, Mike, thank you. She didn't want to ask because she didn't know if she was a good fit for me. It was almost like there were still some limitations, some self-worth, some self-esteem issues, some things where she was not going to ask. But as soon as I invited, she said yes. And she thanked me for offering a deeper level of support in her life and at a higher investment level. Like, I got paid very well from that engagement. And she was grateful that I even offered. Now, the way I was built back then is don't offer, let them ask. Because offering them is selfish. Offering them is going to they're going to judge you as greedy. All these feelings in my body of shame, of being selfish, being pushy, again, sales, all this stuff, they were all bullshit. All the feelings and the emotions were real, but all the stories underneath were all absolute freaking garbage. Those emotions and those feelings are real. But if you don't understand the stories underneath, if you don't understand the beliefs that are causing them, we can't reshape them. We can't rewire them. And the nervous system will just keep acting the same way and causing the same freaking hesitancy, the same not offering. You'll just keep operating the same exact way unconsciously, not knowing that you're actually your only limitation. The only reason people aren't saying yes is because you're not offering. But it felt selfish at one point. It felt greedy. It felt pushy. But now it feels like an act of service. So I offer more. The emotions, the feelings are real. But the stories and the beliefs underneath of those emotions, they're lies. And the lies programmed into, conditioned into the nervous system, they're trying to keep you alive. Your nervous system has one job and one job only, to keep you alive. It tries to keep you alive by keeping you in familiar circumstances, operating the same way because it knows how to keep you alive there. That means if there's lies inside of your nervous system, inside of the beliefs of your nervous system is going to fight to keep them. And it's up to you to master your nervous system instead of allowing your nervous system to master you. Once again, going back to the early stages in my coaching career, there was one guy that wanted to work with me, and he wanted to work at a very high level. And this was high level back then for me, all right? It's not necessarily the highest level for me right now. But the point being is I locked him into, I said, we're going to work together for a year, and I $25,000 up front, and we're going to start with a full day intensive. And we're going to spend 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours together. We're going to start the breakthrough process there. And then we're going to work together for the next year, and your life will be completely different after that year. And he literally had to go and get a home equity line of credit in order to stroke that check. He told me that later, but he went and got a home equity line of credit. When I offered $25,000 up front for that, it felt like, for me, it felt like it was too much. It felt like I was asking for too much. It felt like I was greedy. It felt like I was selfish. That was what the emotions in my body were telling me. But I didn't let the emotions lead the ship. I didn't let my emotions determine my actions. So I happily took his check, and for the next year, we worked together. But here's the cool part. And this is where I really got to see the lie that was buried in my nervous system. Is we had that breakthrough day. We spent, 6 to 8 hours, and he told me shit that he's never told anybody else. And he revealed parts of himself that he's never shown or shined in the world. And at the end, we started really understanding and really uncovering and discovering some of the limitations and some of the beliefs and some of the judgment, self-judgment that he had about himself that were completely false. And this was the beautiful part. At the end of that full day intensive, he said, Mike, we haven't even really started yet, but you just earned the $25,000. One day, that day, he said, was worth the entire investment. But the lie that was buried into my nervous system, into my being, that was too much. It was selfish. It was greedy. The feelings of that were real. But the lies were not. All right. I hope you're understanding what I'm throwing down is that there are emotions and feelings in your body that are very, very, very valuable, very extremely valuable pieces of information that you could benefit and leverage to unlock and unleash a whole nother level, to understand how you're designed, to understand your internal limitations, to understand your survival mechanisms, because that's all these are. They're survival mechanisms. That's all these are. These are defense mechanisms that your nervous system has accumulated to try to keep you alive. But they're trying to keep you alive from damage that was done a long time ago that no longer exists. So fuck your feelings is not awesome wisdom. Listen to your emotions, decode your emotions, understand what they're trying to tell you. And then from there, we get to rebuild your belief system. We get to rebuild those stories in something way more empowering. And when we start to rebuild the nervous system around more empowering beliefs, your entire life will elevate according to those empowering beliefs, because the life that you're living right now reflects your current belief system. And when you elevate your belief system and you elevate your operating system, your nervous system, when you operate everything that's inside of you, the world rearranges and reshapes itself around that new inner state. And your beliefs are core to that. And you can understand your beliefs by understanding your emotions. What are they saying to you? Are they saying that you're worthy, you're deserving, you're valuable, that you're not valuable, that you're lovable, that you're loved, that you're that you're not admired, that you're not respected, that you're not what are that you have nothing to offer? What are your emotions telling you? Because these are all signals and keys to what's inside of your body that's keeping you at the level that you're at, or accelerating and helping you upgrade everything in your life. I've worked with people that have a much easier time creating wealth and success in this world. But I've also worked with people that struggle and they take massive action. They do all the things, and no matter how much effort they expend, they seem to just go around in a circle and really get nowhere. And the key difference between those two groups of people is not as much talent, skills, effort as it is design, as it is internal limitations, as it is belief in themselves, belief in what's possible, what's available to them, what they deserve. And it all starts with decoding the emotions and the feelings in the nervous system. Guys, I hope this has been beneficial. I hope this has been worth the 20 some minutes that we've spent. I know it has been for me. We're just getting started with this stuff. Remember this, and I say this right now at least 10 times a day. If there's anything that you've ever taken away from the Inner Wealth podcast, I hope it's this. The nervous system has one job and one job only, to keep you alive. It tries to keep you alive by keeping you in familiar circumstances. And it tries to keep you in familiar circumstances because it knows how to keep you alive there. Understanding what's happening inside your nervous system is the awakening and the awareness of recreating a nervous system and recreating an inner world capable of creating the external experience of life that you really, really desire, that you really crave. All right. Built to Give, Rebuilt to Receive workshop, August 28th, 29th. I'll put the link in the description. And I hope to see as many of you guys there as possible. All right. Appreciate you. I'll see you next week on the Inner Wealth podcast.